Hello, listeners. Welcome back. This is episode number 213 of eBay the Right Way. Today's date is April 16th, 2025. My guest is Joy in Nebraska, and she is my first guest from Nebraska. So even after over 200 episodes, we are still experiencing firsts on this podcast. Announcements. I wanted to update you on the Premium Library, my online school. I try to do this quarterly. I add new content every week. There are now 630 lessons in the form of videos, audio files, and downloadable documents. I keep everything updated so you are getting the most current information. Here is what was added for the first quarter 2025. Some BOLOs, those are items to be on the lookout for, that I have learned or that are being discussed in eBay groups. 2 cleaning videos, specific items that students have asked about. Third segment of the wig course. An extensive lesson on collectible trolls, something I've been learning about. My commentary about eBay suggested pricing, some points you may not have considered, some Q&A audio files, questions from students and my answers so you can listen while you work. And for those returning to eBay after a hiatus, a summary sheet of eBay changes over the last 5 years in chronological order. eBay has a lot of moving parts, and you want to be informed when you jump back in. I've added a couple of customer response letters. This is like your policies and procedures manual. What to say to customers in situations where you may not know what to say to a buyer. And remember, as a student, you have access to all content, not just the new stuff, and it is all downloadable. You also have access to my help desk service. Ask me anything via email, and I guarantee an answer in 24 hours, usually much less. I started the Premium Library in 2018 and can honestly say it is the best resource for both learning to sell on eBay and taking your business to the next level. Membership is $20 a month and there is no commitment. If it isn't right for you, no problem. We will cancel your subscription and I won't nag you to come back. So that is what I have been up to behind the scenes. Now let's talk with Joy.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to an exciting, fun-filled episode of eBay the Right Way. And I have Joy with us today, who was one of those had to think it over people, or it wasn't a good time the first time I asked.
Right.
So we got her. And so how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great.
And tell me again, you're in Central Time Zone?
Yes, I am in Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay. How about that? That's funny because Catherine, who was on last week, her daughter lives there.
Oh,
We're
fun.
talking about Nebraska. So there you go. Okay. And what brought you to Nebraska? Is that where you've lived your whole life?
No, I grew up on a farm in Northeast Iowa, a family farm. And I just, my husband and I moved around a bunch, doing different ministry opportunities. And we landed in Omaha and it felt like home. So we just stayed here.
Okay. Have you had a brutal winter?
This year there was some really cold days and we did get snow, but then it would like melt every time it snowed. So that was nice. What's worse is when it piles up and it gets hard, but that's
that refreezing stuff is terrible.
Yeah.
Okay. And is it just you and your household? Or you said your husband?
Yeah, my husband and I have been married 25 years and we have 4 kids.
Oh,
Um, so ages 21, 19, 15, and 13.
okay.
So yeah, we're busy, but I've also homeschooled them, and so we're kind of on the lighter end of that journey.
Yeah, yeah. When nobody's driving yet is
Yeah, that's
and you
that's
have
a
to be
more
a
difficult
taxi
time.
for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a little bit of where you are. Do you want to say what town you're in?
Yeah, I mean, I just am in Omaha proper.
Oh, Omaha. Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Now, some people don't like to say because they don't want to create competition at
Yeah, there's
uh
so much opportunity here.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not
So
concerned about it at all, but it's grown quite a bit since we've lived here, and yeah, it's just really big now.
if you're willing to say where you are, other sellers may reach out to you and
Yeah,
say, "Hey, I'm near there too. Let's meet for coffee and talk eBay." And if you can find people willing to share information, that is very helpful because you're right. There's just no way you can be everywhere and get everything.
right.
So, and if you're willing to share, then others will be willing to share, and that's where I get some really good information.
Mhm.
Uh,
Plus,
you
I mean, I think it's fun to go sourcing with people. Um, I, a lot of times I'm not looking for the same things they are anyway, so.
Absolutely, yeah. You can have all those electronics. I do not want them.
Yes.
So, okay, well, do I dare ask what got you into eBay? Was it just selling your kids outgrown stuff, or was there an event that happened?
You know, it's kind of been a journey. I will say that as a child, my mom was a heavy thrifter and garage sailor. So that is what sparked the thriftiness in me. But I would say like when I grew up in the 80s and 90s, there was just that was not a cool thing to do, to wear clothes from thrift stores and garage sales. And I also think maybe they didn't have as good a selection back then anyway. So I kind of stepped out of that thrifted mindset for a while. But yes, when my kids came along, I wanted to be able to get clothes cheap, and I knew that's where garage sales would help me out. So
Right. So, can I ask what year you were born?
I was born in 1980.
Oh,
So
who
yeah.
babysat you? Yes. I was 14 in 1980. So,
Ah,
okay. Yeah. So you're right. At least where I was raised in the suburbs of Atlanta,
mhm.
um, we didn't have the thrift stores like they have now.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just, it is a booming business. And I, I totally, as a teenager, would have done that. But
Yeah.
the thing was being a mall rat, hanging around the mall. We got to go get dropped off at the mall, try on clothes we're never going to buy,
Right.
get a chocolate chip cookie, go to the movies because the theater was there. And thrifting was just not in our routine.
Yeah. And we did thrift for like our farm clothes or clothes we were just gonna wear around the house, but, and I mean, my mom was good at garage sailing. She would find sometimes she would go to some and find things that I would want. She'd take me back, and that's the only reason, I didn't really go to the mall that much, but, that's, uh, because in school you would know who had what you needed to wear, that kind of thing, and she would keep her eye out for those
So you
things.
were in high school in the mid 90s.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So you were like um the pink hair and the loud neon color.
Yes, loud neon for sure. Yep, a
Okay,
lot of
which
that.
all that is now considered vintage.
Yeah, so now I feel
Um,
like I know what I'm looking for because, yes, it was everything going on when I was in high school.
Absolutely. And we're just, your generation's doing it too, like kicking yourself or throwing away the concert
Oh, yeah,
t-shirts and the
yeah.
concert ticket stubs and all the little doodad toys that were, coming. My kids were
Mhm.
born in 94 and 96. So
Okay,
um,
yeah.
I wasn't into that either myself or my kids, but Yeah, that's a hot thing. All the toys like the Giga Pets and the um all those little funky things from the night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I recognize them as they come up and I say, "Oh yeah, I remember hearing about those things." You know, I had
Right.
My Little Ponies and
Oh yeah.
Barbies, things like that when I was growing up. So Care Bears.
So do you remember the first thing you sold that got you started rolling on eBay?
Well, here's the thing. I did a lot of buying first because when my husband was in seminary is probably when we got a eBay account, and that's when I started looking for his used books on eBay. And there wasn't really a memorable first thing, because I think just at some point we had been buying so much on eBay, it made sense to sell. We probably had something that we wanted an audience to sell to, and
Mhm.
I just randomly started selling things, and then through the years I did sell, some of my kids' clothes and stuff. I don't know that they were anything I would sell now on eBay, but they were I also did a lot of person to person selling to buy sell trade stores or things like that. And I know I purchased big things for my kids, like a high chair and a
Mhm.
stroller on eBay, because I wanted a certain pattern and I wanted to find it at a good price. And
And with kids, multiple children, it's hard to go shopping for anything.
yeah, yeah, it is. So, but yeah, I with eBay, well, the first time I really flipped something, I would say, is I had a garage sale for my kids' clothes, and I said my goal is to buy a double stroller. That's what I want to do. And that was maybe the first time in my mind I mentally thought about turning this stuff into something else, that I wanted. So, but eBay, we did look frequently for things to buy on eBay when they were expensive and also to fix things. So I remember one time, um, when my kids were little, we had a Wii U video game system, and it's the kind that you put the disc into, like in a car CD player or something, it's
Right.
like that
Mhm.
kind. And I was schooling my older kids, but my younger ones were playing in the room that had the video game system, and they decided to stuff their goldfish crackers into
Of
the video game
course. Yes.
system.
Let's see what happens when we do that. Right.
Yes. And so we were just I was like, "Oh no, what are we gonna do?" My husband, he took it apart. He said, "I think it's just this part, that I need to fix." He said, "Why don't you look on eBay and see if you can find a for parts only system," which I did, and we replaced the part, and then we, of course, resold that system that we had bought for parts. We resold it for parts. So it was kind of a wash in the end. But those were kind of some of the ways we used eBay throughout the years is to just, flip things as
Prepare
needed.
things that children had put food in.
Uh,
I have a story like that. I think it was my son. Yeah, because he's the analytical mind. He used to take things apart to see how they worked. And
mhm.
it's like three. And
Yeah.
so one day he puts the grilled cheese sandwich in the VCR.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I'm like, oh, Mitchell, why did you do that? And he looked at me just very nonchalant, said, I
Just
just
want to
wanted to
see
see
what
what
it
it looked
did.
like inside. Yeah.
It looks like it kind of fits in that hole,
Yeah. And he didn't see a problem with it. He was like interested. And so I supported his curiosity on that and didn't
Yeah.
leave. But I'm sure lots of parents have stories of Lego and all kinds of stuff that got shoved in those VCRs because the
Yeah.
that slit was big enough to put all kinds of
Yeah, it just
food
looks like a
in and
little pocket that you
yeah,
can
Polly
hide something
Pocket and all
in.
kinds of stuff. Yeah, so I'm sure the wanting those for parts, and even probably now is
Yeah.
the thing because little kids just get curious and if they can stick something in there, they're going to do it.
Yes, they are.
That's a good one.
But over the years, I've sold a lot of just things we didn't use. And it's not necessarily things that were, I mean, yes, I sold leftover things of ours, but sometimes people would just give us stuff and we'd end up with hand-me-down clothes or random homeschool books or whatever landed in our house. If I knew there might be a market um, on eBay, then I would kind of flip it over there. A lot of homeschool stuff you can flip in person or just locally, but some of it, you get a wider, if you can't do it there, then you'll get a wider audience on eBay, and they're all looking for things, especially around this time of year. I find like April to August, the people that are educating, they're looking for their next year's curriculum and trying to save money on it. So,
Yeah, there's even, well, the homeschoolers know this. There's like conventions or expos where
mhm,
you can go and sell your stuff and buy the next year. And but not everybody can go to those.
right.
May not be one in your area, or you may not have a day to blow to go do that. So
Mhm.
eBay is a very convenient way to recover your investment and then find what you need next.
Yes. So there was a time when we were in one of our locations, um we were my husband was bivocational, so he was living in a we were living in a parsonage, and then he was working another job. And there was somebody at our church who just would bring, like, he was kind of like a junk dealer or somebody who went out and sourced good things. He saw somebody throwing a Christmas tree in the dumpster. He didn't see anything wrong with it. He brought it over. And this is about October one year. And I thought, well, I'll put that together and see if I can sell it. So I did. I put it together in my corner and was able to flip that locally. Just kind of fun things like that. Somebody was cleaning their appliances. They got a moved into a new house and they wanted to get new appliances. So they took out all the old appliances and they brought them to us, and I cleaned them all up and flipped them locally. But I just didn't realize, you know, what I was doing was just making it just made sense to me, but I didn't realize that it could be actually a business venture. I didn't think of it in those terms. It was just
Right.
very sporadic and very as needed.
Mm-hmm.
So when I did kind of dive into some social media and it even took a while for me to actually get fed some of the relative material. But by the time I did, I just I did have a light bulb moment one day, and I thought, well, I've been doing things like this for years, and why would I not do this? I didn't know there were other people that actually did this, and especially as a job. So,
Yeah, I had that epiphany when I started. That was like 2003.
yeah.
I'd gone through a divorce and was downsized out of my part-time job. And I was just frantic and just had a garage sale, just like trying to keep my head above water till I could get a job interview and get a real job. Um, and just my neighbor was like, why don't you sell this stuff on eBay? And I was like, I don't even know what that is. What do you mean? And so I started doing it and started selling my own stuff, and then ran out of my own things to sell, and
Mhm.
started going to other people's garage sales and thrift stores. And it just hit me, I could totally do this on purpose all the time. It doesn't have to be just to tide me over till I get like a corporate job, which I really didn't
Right.
want, because I wanted
Right.
to be home for my kids.
Mhm.
They were in school, and it was, I could work this around their schedule. And it was just, like you said, an epiphany of, wait a minute, I could do it all the time
Right.
intentionally. Yeah, I know a lot of people don't think that way because they don't think like you want to be Fred Sanford forever. And I'm like, yeah, I think I do.
Yeah, I've just really enjoyed how flexible it is, how I can continue to support my family in, like driving my kids around and doing I can take my computer anywhere as long as I have drafts ready, I can sit there and list things while they're
Or even just research or
Mhm.
like go through the Money Making Mondays and see what other people are selling. There's
Right. I
always
think those
something
are
you can be
fascinating.
doing on your phone, even if it's just educating yourself uh,
Yeah.
in those moments in the carpool line or whatever you're doing.
Yeah. So, and there was one time where we were another thing that I did kind of intentionally flip was we were at a library sale and they had these magazine back issues they were getting rid of. They were for magazines called Cricket and Faces and Spider. I think they're like literature magazines and they have
Okay.
poetry and short stories in them. And they're quite expensive to get a subscription to. And I knew this because my daughter was young and I had thought about getting a subscription to them. Well, I think they were selling them for like 10 cents a piece. And I thought, I'm going to get these so we can use them in our homeschooling. And then after we were done with them, it probably took us 6 months to a year to work through them. And then I thought, well, I wonder if these would sell on eBay. And they did. I don't remember how much they sold for or anything, but I know at that time, it was it's just part of that lifestyle of using something and then finding a new home for it. So part of my journey has been flipping things locally or just getting rid of things locally. But I think really when I moved to a rural town outside of Omaha, that was when I started thinking more with internet related selling because I didn't have the access to an audience that I had before, and that was part of what sparked me to looking into eBay further as, a continuous thing instead of just a here and there type of thing. So there were some things when we moved there. I think my daughter was growing out of all the little girl clothes she had. And we had a bunch of those IKEA hangers. IKEA makes a special hanger that's like between the baby size and the adult size.
Okay.
And so I had a bunch of those for my kids. I think I had nearly 100. And I thought, people might want these if they don't live near an IKEA. They kind of want that organization. So I did, I think I listed them at the equivalent of $1 a hanger. And I did take a best offer, so it was a little less than that. But I made back probably what I had spent on the hangers. So I was happy to help somebody who didn't live near an IKEA too.
Yeah, that's the thing is that stuff isn't everywhere. And sometimes it's not even on the website. Like things
Right,
are limited time only. And IKEA stuff I've learned can be hit or miss. It just
right,
depends. If it's a shower curtain they only made for a short time and it's real funky, or some of the hardware for the shelving or stuff you hang on the wall, those
hmm,
hardware is very specific to those pieces. So
yeah,
you ever see IKEA hardware, check that out. But not like everything out there IKEA. Just always
right,
look it up, of course. But I was a learning experience over the years is like, oh, why would somebody want this? The solid white shower curtain.
right,
Well, they like it and it was only made for a short time and there are none on the website. And so
hmm,
like Pottery Barn and Crate and Barrel are like that too. It doesn't have to be a really funky, outstanding design. It's just uh I call it a utilitarian item that they can't find
right,
anywhere. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Well, and another thing about IKEA is kind of modern, sleek look with their furniture. We actually, in our neighborhood last summer, my husband was driving around and he saw somebody had put a couple chairs on the curb, and he was on a walk and I had the vehicle. So he said, "Why don't you drive over here and pick up these chairs?" And one was one of those bowl chairs, and like the buttons were pulled off and stuff, but we just use that as an extra seat when needed. But the other one was kind of a sleek, I don't know if it was real leather, but it felt leathery, and it had a footstool with it, and it just had that modern, like kind of reclined, bouncy look. And I thought, okay, well, maybe somebody would want this. And I Google lensed it, and it did come up as an IKEA chair. And I think the price at IKEA was like 300 something dollars.
Yeah.
This chair with the ottoman. And I thought, well, I mean, let me see. I didn't sell that one on eBay, but I think I did get something like $75 locally for it,
Hmm.
just by picking it up on the side of the road. So that was a win for us.
Yeah. Don't you love those? And then it just opens your mind to, you just don't leave anything behind. And
Right,
if it
right.
doesn't work out, you can donate it or trash
Mhm,
it or
mhm.
whatever. But I had that happen with a chair. It was a rattan chair with a cushion on it,
Okay,
and it was at a garage sale I went to, and it just had free on it because it wasn't perfect. And I was like,
right.
I was just going to use it on my deck.
Uh-huh.
And like, okay, so I got that for free, and I was like, just for the heck of it, I'm going to look it up. And I forget what store it was from. It may have been Pottery Barn, or
Okay.
it was something like that. And yeah, it was a $300 chair. And I
Yeah.
said, well, I'm going to put this on Marketplace and just see what happens, because
Right, right.
I am not fancy enough to put my rear end in a $300 chair all the time. I don't need that. So sure enough, somebody responded immediately, drove down from Tennessee
Oh my
to
goodness.
Atlanta to get this chair.
Wow.
And it turned out he had several of them on his porch, and a tornado came and destroyed a couple of them. And
Oh,
he's
wow.
always looking for them because he loves this and wants it to
Yeah.
match the other chairs. And like, in my world, that's like way too much trouble for a chair. But he was thrilled to get it. And I thought,
Right,
gosh, people just don't know what they're throwing away,
right,
what they're giving
right.
away for free. And
Yeah.
look at me. I'm like a little ant. I'm just taking this thing from over here and putting it over here and
Right.
making money on
And
it.
also trying to help somebody out too,
So
that
I bought
makes a
myself
lot
a
of sense.
$50 rocking chair
Oh, nice.
from the money I made selling the free chair.
Yeah, yeah. You still got a chair that you wanted.
Yeah, yeah, and everybody won on that. So
Yes.
yeah, I love these people that find stuff on the curb or do trash picks, because it's just a gold mine out there.
Yeah. And I've seen a lot of that when people are done with their garage sales Saturday, they just kind of put everything at the curb and market free, and people can come around and just check it out. So,
Yeah, and good for us.
yeah.
That's a great story.
Well, I did find out about this series of books. Everybody knows about the Laura Ingalls Wilder Little House books, but there are several spin-off series to that. There's one about her daughter, and then there's one about her mom and her grandma, and then her great grandma. And, I don't know really how accurate these books are, but my daughter was a fan of Laura Ingalls. And
Uh-huh.
so when I found out they had these other series, I kind of kept my eye out for them, and we borrowed them from the library. Well, then I was at a library sale one week and found that they were getting rid of all these books. And they're kind of hard to find because the demand wasn't necessarily super high when they were being published. And so some of the publishing numbers toward the end of those series fell off. And then some of those books now are worth more.
Mhm.
So I picked up a bunch of whatever they had at this library sale. I picked up for a quarter a piece, just for our personal library, knowing that later I would probably sell them. And then my husband and I were on a trip to Lincoln a few years ago, and at that time, they did have a Goodwill that was just dedicated to media, so they just had books, DVDs, CDs, and maybe, like, computer equipment. And I happened to look in the books, and I found a whole stack, again, of these spin-off series books, just for real cheap, like a dollar a piece or something. So I have had one, that I had a duplicate of sell for just under $40. And some of them do go for as high as like 80 or 90. It just depends on what books you have. But I am getting ready now to start selling off, our personal collection that we had. We don't need it anymore. And I definitely but I know that those books are sought after, and they kind of have an emblem on the top that say Little House. And so you kind of know it's part of a series. But if you're familiar with the regular Little House books, they have kind of the same font, but they're
Mhm.
a good thing to look out for and can be worth money. But you just find them in those odd places.
So it does have Laura Ingalls Wilder's name on it as the author.
No, they're written by other people. I think
Oh,
there's like a Melissa somebody. And then there might be a male author too. So that's why you want to look for it's like a golden oval emblem on the top of the book, and it'll say Little House. And the pictures are reminiscent of Little House, so it kind of gives that vibe. But yeah, it is different authors. So
okay. Well, that's good to know to look out for.
yeah. So I guess after I was hearing, watching social media of people buying and selling things as a business. I thought I did start keeping my eye out for things because I'm a natural thrifter, and I just thrift anyway with my daughter. One of the first things I found that I wanted to try out was I was at our local chain thrift store, and I found a Walt Disney World cast member exclusive pin bag. And it looks like a CD binder, but then there's felt pieces in there where you put the pins, like they
Huh?
get specific pins, I guess,
Yeah, it's like a
and
pin
select them.
collection. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I didn't even know what it was. I think the logo on it like might have had Mickey Mouse, but it said WDW for Walt Disney World, and it was new with the tags. And I did Google Lens that to find out what it was, and I thought, oh well, I guess I might try this and see. I think I paid 350 for it because I think it was a half off day. And that one I flipped pretty quickly into, I think I got $75 for it pretty quick.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
And I showed it to my husband, and he was like, "Wow, that's a great sale."
Yeah.
Because a lot of times when you flip kids' clothes, you're not making quite that much money, or the kids' clothes I was flipping was not making quite that much money. So that
Right.
was kind of a fun, um, one of my first intentional sales. And then another one was I had heard about somebody who sells clothing on YouTube talking about seatbelt bags, and it's, like a purse or a bag
Yes.
made of seatbelt.
Yes. It's a seatbelt handbag.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she was talking about how those were coming back because it was kind of a Y2K thing. And I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. And then when our family was thrifting one day, I was at a Goodwill and I was looking at their new racks, and I saw one of those seatbelt bags, and it was kind of a bigger purse style, and it was mauve, like a pretty paint color. And I just thought, well, that's interesting. I don't know if that's going to make it do better or worse. But I think it was $6, and I decided to get it and take a chance on it. And then I ended up selling it for $89 pretty quickly. And that one went international too. Must have been right after, I think I'd heard you talk on one of your podcasts about how if you offer international sales, it kind of boosts you gives you a boost in the algorithm. And I thought, well, I can certainly offer international sales for that
Mhm.
purpose. And then I
Yeah.
got an international sale. So
And do you remember where it went?
I don't. I think it was a name that began with a C, maybe Cambodia.
Okay.
So yeah, that was just kind of crazy that I had an
Yeah, and there's no reason not to have international now with the eBay International Standard
right.
program. I had an item that person opened a return on it, and it was a heavily beaded, what you call ugly sweater, but I thought it was beautiful. It had
Yes.
dragonflies on it,
Oh,
and I think they're quite beautiful. But they get thrown in with the ugly Christmas sweaters. But anyway, they're 90s and vintage and handmade, and it sold for like $80.
okay.
And it went to Germany.
Oh,
And
wow.
the lady left me positive feedback, but it was very choppy English, and it wasn't distinct enough German to put in Google Translate to figure out what she
Oh,
was saying. It
yeah.
was just something about maybe it got destroyed or the package was opened and
Oh, no.
it got damaged, on the way to her. But yeah, as soon as she opened that return, next email that came says, we have covered this for you. You don't have to do anything. And that's what I love about the international sales program is that you're covered.
Right.
If it gets damaged, you don't have to do anything. So, and I don't even know if they can leave negative if that happens. So maybe
Oh,
it was a positive, green,
positive feedback.
but it was, you could tell she was angry,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
but she got her money back. So yeah.
Well, I like also offering international sales because even if you're offering a commonplace item, if you don't, if not everybody is offering international sales, that might make your item in demand. So
Right. They're going to pick
recently,
you if you're going to ship there.
right. So I had listed a lot of DVDs that my kids used, and they were like PBS shows, and so sometimes those are hard to find on DVD. And I was just selling them personally because they were sentimental, which is a lot a lot of things I do sell just because it's something my kids used and I just want to find a good home for it.
Right.
And these DVDs only, I mean, the selling price was around $15, and I was like, that's okay. I just want somebody to have these. Well, they ended up somebody in Australia buying them. And I thought, well, I guess it's probably harder to get PBS show DVDs over in Australia. So I was glad I had international shipping turned on for them too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just opens your item up to millions of more people.
Right.
And I'll go through phases where I'll have international sales like every day for a week.
Oh, wow.
And like this plush went to Italy, and this thing went to New Zealand, and it's just very interesting. I'm just fascinated. Like, why did someone over there pay so much money
Right.
shipped to them? What is the deal? Sometimes it's like a $15 item, but they paid 30 for shipping.
Right.
What is going on with that? Is it American living overseas that wants items from home? Is it a military family that
Mm-hmm.
wants items from home? Or not all the military addresses are within the USPS. It depends on
Okay.
where they're living and that
Okay.
kind of thing. But yeah, I've sold things to people on submarines.
Oh, wow.
It was like a APO, FPO address, and I would Google, what is this? And it's, an aircraft carrier.
Oh my goodness.
When I was doing the grocery business on Amazon, I sold food to people everywhere.
Oh yeah.
That was
People like
great.
their food staples for sure.
Yeah. So just, eBay does not pay me to say this. I just find that it makes your business more interesting.
It does.
If you're going to ship worldwide. I sold a bathing suit to Alaska a couple weeks ago, and that was in March.
Yeah.
Like,
So
okay,
you wonder if they're going on a cruise.
they have indoor swimming there, so
Yeah, that's true.
whatever. Maybe they're doing a polar plunge. I don't know, but
Yeah.
outfitted for whatever it was.
I sold a bathing suit to Maine last week, and
Yeah.
well, yeah.
Maybe
Maybe
it's just
they're
like
going on
positive,
vacation.
it's positive thinking, like it's gonna get warm.
Yeah.
So let's get the babies.
They're going to be prepared.
Right, right. Okay, well, you have any other stories you want to talk about?
Yeah, there was one, it was funny. My daughter wanted a pair of ice skates. She goes to college in Chicago and there's ice skating there. And so when she came back for winter break, she found a pair of ice skates locally and purchased them. And they came in like a white, like old luggage bag is what it looked like. And she left that behind because obviously it was too bulky to kind of take on the train and everything. And I messaged her. I said, "Do you want this thing?" Because it didn't look like something she was going to keep. And she said,
Mhm.
"No, I don't want it." And I looked it up. It was a vintage, it was Samsonite luggage. And it was, probably from the 70s era. It was vintage and it was like this white kind of marbled looking thing. But anyway, I sold that for $70. Um,
Hey,
it was just something that landed in my house and I decided to look it up before I just put it in the donation pile. So that was fun.
so how much were the skates?
I think they were like $25 maybe.
Ah, so, and you bought that on eBay?
That one I think it's yeah, I might have sold on eBay. It definitely sold. I definitely had to ship it. So I had
No,
to.
what I mean is when you bought her the skates, where'd you buy them from?
Oh, she just found those locally on Facebook Marketplace. So
Okay,
she just
okay,
drove and picked them up from
okay.
somebody.
So you ended up making money on that deal and
Yeah,
she got the skates, and
yeah,
again, everybody won.
yeah. And there was another one. When I was at like a homeschool used book sale, some people just are wanting to get rid of stuff. I found some DVDs that were of a show called Popular Mechanics for Kids.
Mm-hmm.
And they had like season 1, season 2, season 3, and I think they were a quarter a piece. Like it was too good not to pass up. I was just like, "Oh, these are something that would be great for my kids to watch." Well, they finally were we were getting ready, we were watching through them one fall a few years ago and um I looked up and found out there was a season 4 also. And I it was a little harder to find, but I did find one on eBay for $10 and had it shipped. And then I thought, well, I'll sell them all together because that always makes a nicer sale if you can have all the seasons. Well, when I was looking there must have been one of the seasons besides 4 that was hard to find or hard to find all at once because I couldn't find any complete sets, or the complete sets I had found were selling for over $100. And so I listed these for $200 and I ended up getting an offer for 150. And
Mm-hmm.
I hit accept real fast on that one.
Yeah, I guess so.
I just thought these have been sitting in my house for years and I can't believe they're worth this much, or maybe they weren't worth that much before and now they are. I don't know.
And what you said they were from the 90s?
I don't know when they were from, but it was called
Okay.
Popular Mechanics for Kids, and it was a DVD series.
Okay, so was that a PBS thing?
I don't think it was PBS because I don't
Okay.
recall the PBS logo, but it probably was like one of those, a kids dedicated television
Yeah,
show.
like A&E or TLC or
Yeah,
one of those
something.
things. But where I'm going with that is a lot of those PBS things,
Yeah.
VHS or DVD, are great sellers. Like I was forced to watch the old Yankee Workshop
Oh, oh
when I
man.
was when I was a young married, and Bob Vila and all that building stuff, and
Yeah.
that was the era where I was reading all the John Grisham books. So my husband at the time would be watching that, and I would be in the other room reading. Um,
Uh-huh.
but now those kinds of things sell for great money.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just because it's like a vintage production, or are people really watching them? And because you can find that online, and I think people just like to have the physical DVD or VHS tape
Yeah, sometimes they do. Sometimes it brings just to mind that, oh, this is a thing I want to watch.
Hmm.
Physically, it's there, and so they remember that's something they want to do.
Well, and not everybody has great internet if you're rural or whatever, and
Mhm.
or streaming. Maybe it's on streaming, but they keep changing things and
Right.
charging you for stuff.
Yes.
Like, I want to watch some movies from the 90s. One of my favorite movies is Double Jeopardy with Tommy Lee Jones. I love
Okay.
that
Yeah.
movie. And they charge me for it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I will buy the DVD at Goodwill for $1.
Yeah.
I'm not paying you $4 to watch a movie that's almost 30 years old.
Right.
And these streaming channels are getting so greedy with everything they're putting on there. Probably now 75% you have to pay something extra. You have to do this free trial. And it's getting to be like, okay, I dropped cable 10 years ago because I didn't want to pay all that. And now here we
Mhm.
are with these streaming channels getting so greedy.
Yeah, it's basically just splitting up that amount among like 10 services.
Yeah, it's a principle thing. I'm like, no, I'm not paying that. I'll go find it or even buy it on, eBay or Amazon for $2 or $3 and watch it whenever I want. I am not paying you.
Right. Well, and they're starting to bundle a streaming service with different things. Like you have this option with your phone plan, and if
Right.
you have Walmart Plus, you get this one for free. And, so they're just trying to, maybe offer it another way. Maybe they get,
Yeah, that's
a
true.
cut
I
that
will
way.
say that I pay $8 a month for Paramount Plus, which has the Smithsonian Channel. And
Oh,
I love that.
okay.
That is so educational, like in a fun, the productions are really good. So I will pay $8. I will pay $2 a week for that.
Yeah. I mean, if you know it's something you're going to watch
Yeah,
regularly,
yeah,
I have
exactly.
not explored Paramount Plus that much, but that is one that comes with a service we have. And so I like watching documentaries. And so
Yes.
that's the first thing I want to explore on any service I get a trial of. What kind of documentaries do they have?
Well, they have Aerial America. Have you ever seen that?
No.
It's all filmed from the air. This
Oh,
came
that's
out maybe
cool.
in 2012, and it's every state, and they film everything from the air. And it's not drones because that
Wow.
wasn't a big thing back then. It's
Okay.
like helicopters. They had to stabilize the cameras on it. And so then they made all these other ones: Aerial France, Aerial Greece,
Oh,
Aerial
wow.
vistas, where it's all nature stuff. And I started because of that. I loved that. And then there's just other things like that coming up. So the productions are really good because it's the Smithsonian.
Mm-hmm. Those are the kind of things I like to watch with my kids. It's a learning venture. It's something we can all find interesting. There was one on Disney Plus about the making of a cruise ship, a new cruise ship they
Oh,
had, and that was just fascinating. We all loved that. My kids were really intrigued by, like, I mean, we haven't taken a cruise, but just the intricate details and how even after the ship pulled out of where it was being structured, like they were putting touches on it all the way to its destination point, or its docking when they were going to have the initial takeoff.
right. The launch. Yeah.
Yeah.
That does
So,
sound, that reminds me of that show, How It's Made.
yes.
I used to watch that with my kids. And again, my analytical son, it would be so many like random things they just put together. Like today's episode is making wheelchairs, cupcakes, and door locks, or
Yeah,
what,
like
it's
very
like all
random
these
things.
random things. And we just decided we like the food ones. So
The
we
food ones are
started
good.
watching Unwrapped on the cooking channel. Where it's like the factory, and they have how they make everything. And it's kind of hypnotic watching all those machines do everything. But
Yeah.
yeah, we're into that too. And see, we totally got off the topic of eBay. That has nothing to do with anything other than we started talking about DVDs.
That was great.
Okay, well, do you have any final words for the listeners? Maybe moms that juggle so much like you, or just getting into eBay in general?
I mean, I'll just say it's eBay is something that can grow with you. I mean, you can just do it as needed and use it as a resource. And if that's all it ever is, that's still great. And if you want it to become more at some point, it'll be there for you when you want it to become more. So I just really enjoyed, and I'm not even really doing it to the fullest extent yet, but I do see the future when I won't have any homeschool duties anymore. Then maybe I will have more time for it, or maybe that will get filled with something else. But I really enjoy the flexibility it allows.
Your older kids, do they do any reselling?
They don't, but they do everything they clean out of their rooms, they do give to me so that I can resell if it's worth it for them.
So, and then they get the money.
Depending on what it is, but yeah,
Yeah.
usually they get the money.
Like they're not going to get the money for that $300 dresser you bought them.
Right.
Yeah, that is funny when they start driving, because I saw this with my kids. I started when they were 6 and 8. So when my daughter started driving, she would bring me things. How much you think you can get for this, Mom? Because she had to pay gas money, and she did babysitting for money. She didn't work outside the neighborhood, but yeah, that when they have a car, then they're ready to part with their things. Like my son, when he started driving, he brought me the Lego sets, those building things that
Yes.
what's that called? Imaginext and
Yeah.
the
And
mag.
when you have a whole set, you can usually get a good bundle price on that.
Yeah, because he would put those complicated Lego things together in a couple days, and they just sat in his room on a shelf, and he had
Right.
the box and the intentionally I said,
Instructions.
save the
Yeah.
box, save the
Yeah,
instructions. Well, I'm
exactly.
not going to make it again. One day you're going to sell it. So yeah, so shout out to all the moms out there buying these expensive toys for your kids. They will outgrow them.
Right.
Save the boxes somewhere, save the instructions. It will make them more sellable, and you'll get more money for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even we always looked out for Thomas the Train Engine at garage sales. And
Uh-huh.
when my kids were little, I usually let them pick maybe one or two cars for their train set. And yep, that's something that's gonna probably get listed this summer because nobody's playing Thomas the Train anymore.
Right. And it's going to get older, and they don't
Yep.
make them. I don't care how far ahead we get into the future. We're still going to be saying, yeah, they just don't make it like they did in what
Right.
the year was, because everything changes.
Right.
So, yeah. Okay. Well, it was great to finally meet you
Yeah,
in
you too.
person. And I hope I didn't nag you about coming on too much, but,
No, you're fine.
and I hope you enjoyed it and don't regret it.
Very painless.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so it's 3 o'clock there.
Yep.
What's happening for the rest of your day?
Well, my kids are have some obligations this afternoon, so I'm home. So I probably will work on eBay a little bit today, and then I'll just get supper ready for when everybody's home. So, and
Okay.
then I do a lot of my listing at night when we're watching TV. So it's easy to have a computer and pull up your drafts and just list a few things.
There you go. Every day you touch it every
Um,
day. That's what the algorithm likes.
yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks again, and we'll see you on the group with your great sales.
Yeah. Thank you, Suzanne.
Bye.
Bye.
Joy was so efficient that she emailed me a few days later with some follow-ups. She said, "It looks like The Popular Mechanics for Kids was a Canadian TV show that aired on Global TV from 1997 to 2000, and then reruns were aired on BBC Kids Canada until 2018. This is what I found on Wikipedia, which I know can't always be trusted, but if that information is true, that would explain why the DVDs were in demand." The Little House on the Prairie spin-off series are written by Roger McBride, who wrote The Rose Years, Maria Wilkes, who wrote The Caroline Years, and Melissa Wiley, who wrote the Charlotte years and the Martha years. The seatbelt purse I sold went to Croatia. So now you have all those details. Next week, my guest is Rachel, who is just as sweet as she can be and very resourceful in her eBay selling. So please come back for that episode. Thank you all for listening to and supporting this podcast, and I hope you have a fantastic week on eBay. Bye for now.